Representative Pam Altendorf coming live from St. Paul. And, normally we have had another busy day here. Normally I'm not in the office on Friday, but with the agenda, we are having special committee meetings. And so I was in this morning. Lots of times I'm doing stuff in the district on Fridays, and today I was here for a couple of different committee meetings. So I wanted to thank all the supporters we had today on our elections committee. We were talking about ranked choice voting, and I am going to continue to do these videos because I really feel like one of the best things that you can do is to just continue to educate yourself, research, and do everything you can in your power to follow along. It really is that important. Many ways, I feel like the public, we've been lulled asleep, and we have to pay attention. I think right now we're at a point where a lot of people understand things just don't seem right, and a little bit of that to blame is to us, that we maybe fell asleep, we were not paying attention. And so I just encourage you, I want to keep on doing these, be very transparent, provide information, but research anything I say, research. If you have questions, please feel free to ask me. If I'm wrong, I absolutely would admit that, and would actually be very thankful or grateful to anybody, that said, hey, something that you said wasn't correct, because I think honesty and truth is how we get out of this, and we need to expose all of this. So, there's a saying, the person that controls the media controls the masses, or whoever controls the media controls the minds. And so really think about that. That is, I believe, a true statement. And then if we would take that another step and we understand how powerful our media is, and if that is a true statement, so again, question everything I say, but if it's a true statement that you control the media, then you can control the masses. And if you control the media, you can control the mind. Well, then you have to ask who has been controlling our media. And if this is true, other smart, intelligent people would know that, and they would want to control these entities. So right now, we'll talk a little bit about ranked choice voting. And this came up in our elections committee meeting. I want you to research. There is an organization, and their title is Fair Vote. So we have to keep on labeling this, but remember, I always say the Democrats have cute names and bad ideas, and they do that because, again, it's like the psychological mind game type thing. So they name an organization Fair Vote. Well, it sounds all great, sounds wonderful. Who wouldn't want that? But dig deep into this organization, dig deep into who is Fair Vote, who is funding them. And right now in Minnesota, so Fair Vote is pushing a new election process, which is called Ranked Choice Voting, or RCV. In Minnesota, they are very organized, and they have put, I believe it was $1.3 million into Minnesota to try to get ranked choice voting passed right here in Minnesota. And so again, don't believe me, follow it. But when you have an organization that's putting that kind of money into it, you need to ask the next question, and it's why? Why are they putting so much money, 1.3 million, and who is funding this organization to try to fundamentally change the elections here in Minnesota to rank choice voting? The one thing that I argued in committee today is we have made our elections so complicated. We were also talking about at the county level that they don't have enough money to support themselves. They're so expensive. The elections are so expensive. Well, then let's ask that question. That's a great question to ask. Why are our elections so expensive? Well, it's because they've gotten so complicated. We have extended here in Minnesota. We have 46 days of the election, of pre-voting. And it's all blown up. So government causes the problem. And now the Democrat Party is trying to rush into fix or to fund the problem, but it's not, I shouldn't say fix, because it's not fixing the problem. The elections are still drawn out, complicated, and like, so do you remember, I'm older than a lot of people, but there used to be a time that we would have an election and we would know that night who the winner is, or we would know the next morning who the winner is. So why is it, with all of this great new electronics and, things that the Democrats claim that we need, how come with all of these additions now in today's world, we don't know that who won the election? We don't know for days or weeks who won the election. So does that seem like a good process? Let's just think common sense. Like, we have gone against the basics of just voting, paper ballots, counting, and having a winner that night, or at least by the next morning, to now us not knowing, and the elections are being drawn on. And I would hope the public would reject this, because why do we think this is more secure? It's not more secure. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So today we talked about ranked choice voting. It's a complicated system, and just to give you the very basics of it, it's where it's being tried out. So in Alaska, you can easily Google search that they did ranked choice voting, and I quoted today that on November 23rd, The Hill, which is a liberal publication, was saying that they still didn't have the winner of ranked choice voting in Alaska. So is that a better system that, let me see, the 23rd from the 8th, whatever that was, 15 days after the election, they still didn't know who won the election? And this is what the Minnesota Democrats are trying to push for right here in Minnesota. Does that seem secure? Does that seem like that's going to build the confidence of the people of Minnesota? Absolutely not. So if there's a place where you want to get involved, it's waking up the public. Shouldn't elections be definitely bipartisan? This bill that they are passing, ranked choice voting, no Republicans are supporting this. And yet in the past, all of the election laws that are normally passed are bipartisan, because why would we want one party to want something and another party not at all? Why would we not talk in committees and come up with a solution that both parties equally can agree with, so that we think it's a fair system? I mean, is that just too much common sense? That's not what's happening here in Minnesota. So I have another question. If the Democrats hold all the power in Minnesota, right, and actually they've won and held, our state has been very solidly Democrat for years and years. So if this is the case, they have right now the trifecta, the governor, the Senate, and the House. Why are they trying to change our election laws? I mean, this is really a valid question, and I think everyone needs to be asking this. Every person in Minnesota, you should be asking your Democrat friends, Republican friends, if the Democrats hold the trifecta, so they won all of the elections, why are they changing our election laws, or wanting to change our election laws? So that brings up red flags all over the place. Why are we allowing the majority party right now, the Democrats, to change our election laws on a bipartisan way to make it even more easy for them to win? Now, I am telling you, every person should be watching these committee hearings. You should be watching them, because you need to hear from both sides. And I want you to listen to, when you watch the committee meeting from today, I want you to listen to Chair Freiberg, who actually said, as both sides were supposed to, so people opposing ranked choice voting, and then the other side that's for, both sides were supposed to get 20 minutes of testimony to testify for and to testify against. And you will hear in that video, Chair Freiberg said that the side that is supporting ranked choice voting, so they're the ones that are being funded by $1.3 million by the Fair Vote organization, you will hear Freiberg say out of his own words that they're organized. So that they're organized. I mean, and it's just like, we have to think about this. Who's organizing them? Who is funding this and why? This should be certainly very concerning for every Minnesotan. And even if you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter. We should always be supporting fair elections. So anyways, the ranked choice voting, it came to committee. I would challenge you to watch it. It tells you a lot. You know, the Republicans are trying to fight against it, but they have the votes. They are in the majority. So on our committee, you know, they have something like 7 people voting for it. I really was hoping that we could get one of the Democrats to break, but we just can't. We cannot get one Democrat to break off of this majority thinking and to vote for the people of Minnesota. We had a testifier say in Bloomington that they went door to door to door and they asked thousands and thousands of voters if they supported ranked choice voting, and it was over 70% said no, they do not support this. If you look at Alaska, they are now trying to repeal ranked choice voting. They're trying to repeal it. So this did not make our elections safer or better or more secure or safer or to build up the confidence in the people. If you look at everywhere that ranked choice voting has happened, it's done the opposite. It's causing concern, it's causing division, it's causing people question the elections, and they're waiting a long time to get the results. It's also disenfranchising voters. A lot of these votes during the ranked choice voting process, that votes are getting thrown out. So even Mondale, who is a Democrat, he was against ranked choice voting. So please do your research. This doesn't make sense. And again, please do your research, because so many of the things that the Democrats do, it's playing with your mind. It is driving people off of fear and emotion. But if you look at the facts and if you actually can put that aside of what they're saying, but actually look at the facts, oftentimes these things just do not make sense. They just do not make sense. But I wanted to give a big shout out. We had a lot of testifiers. It was a great day. As far as if you watch the video, I just truly would encourage you to watch the whole committee meeting. We lost the votes because the Republicans are in the minority. But if you watch, we won on the messaging. We won. We bring the facts, we bring the message, and we communicate very clearly why this is wrong. And then on the opposite side, they have fair vote, they have scripts, and they have people coming in that's playing off of your emotions and fears, and you can see it very clearly in the video. These people are not speaking from their heart. I'm not even sure if they believe what they say if you were a person that can read body language. They are scripted, they are told what to say, and it is to manipulate and control the people that they're trying to get to vote or to support this. So again, a big shout out to everyone that testified and that was supporting freedom and trying to protect our election process. And again, when we show up and we message against it, we win. That's just as simple as it is. We just keep on winning. This week was a busy week here in St. Paul. I love it when we have visitors come, and I just want to give a couple other little examples, but I spoke to a superintendent from our district, and I also spoke to some of the Goodhue county commissioners from our district. And so we have schools and we have county. 2 different government agencies that are basically supported by the state. And so we here in the state legislature, we're creating laws and then rules, and we're providing the funding sometimes, for these levels. Also, both the county and the schools are also running off of property taxes. So it's not all state dollars, but it is state dollars, some of it. And so both of them, though, have almost the exact same story, is that, when I'm talking to superintendents, they say all of the mandates that were being pushed at the state level, they cause problems at the school level because many of them often go unfunded. Then I'm talking to the county commissioners, and they say they have a problem with funding all of the mandates that the state legislators are pushing on them. So It's the exact same behavior. It's happening at all these different levels, that the people that are elected at these state levels, we're creating mandates and regulations and laws, and oftentimes we don't even know. But we think we know better than the local organizations, than the local school board, the local superintendents. We create these laws, which creates mandates, which then means they have to follow them, but they maybe don't have the funding to be able to follow them, but they have to because it's Minnesota law. So I'm hearing this from different entities that mandates are what causes the problem. And that leads me into my next thing is, when I was campaigning, my campaign was less government, more freedom. So I understand that government has a place. I understand that we do have to fund different things like schools. And, I, just like everyone else, I want our schools to have a good education. I want our students to have a good education. Just like everyone else, I want public safety. Just like everyone else, I want infrastructure as we're driving over potholes all over the state of Minnesota, which has really been bad. So it's like, I understand very well that government has its place, and yet my personal political beliefs is that I almost never would support mandates. I would give local control in all of these different situations. So another example of that was the school free lunches. It came to the floor again, just briefly this week. And I do not support a mandate for school lunches. I absolutely won't. But then so it's cute name, bad idea, oh gosh, I don't even know what they called it, but it's like feeding our children. I don't know. Whatever the cute name, bad idea is on, the feeding the school lunches. So it's like, if you vote against it, they try to make it seem like you don't like kids, you want them to starve, all of these things. But it's like, that's absolutely not what is really going on. Instead, if schools have children that are hungry, that are falling through the cracks, because we already do have a program in place that's helping with students free and reduced lunches. And if we're falling through the cracks, which I absolutely understand, the economy is tough, inflation is high, there's families that are really hurting right now, then my idea would be to give the funds directly to the school, or to increase the percentage of the number of kids that we're helping. So we're not getting those kids to fall through the cracks. But I have literally had Democrats and other public people say, I don't need the state to pay for my kids' lunches. I had a Democrat, a very hardcore Democrat, text me and said, I agree with you. I don't think we need to be paying for everyone's school lunches. And yet we don't disagree on if there's kids falling through the cracks, like, let's pay for them. But the problem is they are writing this as a mandate, and that will become a problem down the road because the school has to follow the mandate. So as soon as we put into law that we have to provide a lunch for all of the kids, that is now law. And in the future, if we have a deficit type situation where right now we have a surplus, if we have a deficit, the schools still have to follow the law. So when I was talking to a superintendent this week from my district, he said down the road with all of these mandates coming through, that without having the money coming in, they will be in situations that they will have to cut paraprofessionals. They will have to cut teachers because they have to follow the laws. So what are we doing here? It's just unbelievable for me to watch. And I would say this has been a very difficult few years for people with common sense. I just, again, want to encourage you to think, to not fall for the fear, the manipulation, the emotion tied to the words, and to really think through what's actually happening. So it's been a little bit crazy. Let me see else on my notes. Also, I just want to give you a couple more examples. So in my district, I have a nursing home that is in danger of closing, and I've been working with the owner, and I'm telling you, it is just such a sad situation because We have been trying to talk to the Democrats about prioritizing. How can we get funding to the nursing homes? How can we get some emergency funding to mental disability? What can we do? We have to keep these places open. And what are we going to do if they close? Well, again, I'm going to say it again, but watch what people do, not what they say. If funding nursing homes and keeping them open was a priority, if funding mental disability homes and keeping them open was a priority, the Democrats with a trifecta, they could have passed this in week 1 or week 2. With the surplus, they could have passed this in week 1 or week 2. They could have put some emergency funding into this area. If funding schools was truly the priority that they are saying, they could have put some emergency funding into the schools to try to help where there's been a deficit. They could have done that immediately, but none of that has happened. I am sitting on the Education Finance Committee, and to this day, on week 11 or 12, I forget where we're at, with our literacy rates being at 50%, the Democrat Party has not brought through my committee one bill that is addressing academics and literacy. What a shame. Honestly, it is disgraceful. When our state of Minnesota, our literacy rate is at 50%, what a crisis that we, the state government, the state legislature, we are not putting this as a #1 priority for our kids. For our kids. I mean, we will have a generation of kids that is going to struggle with reading. And it's very common sense, but, kids first learn to read, and then they learn other subjects by reading. So they learn to read, and then they read to learn. I think that's the saying. Doesn't that make sense? So if they don't learn how to read, our kids, of course, they're going to also struggle with science and math and everything else because they didn't learn the basics of reading. This is a crisis in Minnesota. And yet, watch what they do, not what they say, because if this was a priority for the Democrats, emergency funding could have went into our schools to try to help literacy right in the first week or 2, and that just did not happen. It did not happen. So I think just want to finish up. There are some gun laws, gun bills that are working their way through the House. We have no idea when they're coming to the floor, but I will tell you, thank you to all the sheriffs, and I would really encourage each and every one of you, thank your sheriff, thank your county sheriff that is publicly put out a statement that they are going to protect your constitutional rights and that they reject the gun bills that are coming through the Minnesota House. It's very important. I have done 2 town halls now focused on the gun bills. And I will tell you, this issue has really gotten people to come out. The first one we had, I think, almost 150 people there. And the second one we had 160 to 170 people there. And so they're speaking up loud and strong, but we need your voice. We need you actively involved. Pay attention. On a national level, it's exciting if you want to just peek at the news over there, but they are doing some hearings or testimonies on what was the origins of COVID, starting to dig deep into what happened with the Bidens. I know this isn't always hitting the news, but that is coming out. They are doing hearings on these things. So again, either you can pay attention and do your own research, or you can listen to mainstream news and you can be you can just be told what to think. But I would encourage you to start doing your own research and to really dig deep into some of these matters, because it truly is too important for you not to be engaged with this process right now and to not really know what's happening. So it's been a difficult year for people, I would say, with common sense, because the Democrats say one thing and they do something completely opposite. But the thing is there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of people that are starting to wake up, and that's what we need. We need people to be awake. We need people to be engaged. We need people to be learning by themselves, to be educated, to not just listen to something that they hear on the news or the TV and take it for the truth. Do your own research. You absolutely can do that. And question everything. Don't believe a word I say. Question everything. Question everything and do your own research. So I just want to ask you again to continue to pray for all of us. We are working hard and follow along. I'm telling you, some of these committee meetings are way more fun and way more entertaining than any sitcom that you could possibly be watching. So get involved with the process. That's what we need, is we need people to be involved. But God bless you. Thank you for your prayers. And just know we're fighting for all of you in Minnesota. Bye, everyone.